So this is part two of my video. I just was talking about this sample thesis, and I just read the sample ethical appeal body part that I wrote on a separate article by Rifkin. And I've been underlining the key words that relate to ethical appeal, so you can see how I'm using plain English vocabulary that's coming from this handout, page 6 of the PACES handout. This is on your week 3 module, right? So I'm just focusing on this column here and how I can fully think about it, realize it, analyze it, ask questions about the way he sets this up. Okay, and so the last thing I underlined was how he demonstrates further expertise on the subject by acknowledging a counter argument. I actually combined these two ideas as that he seems like an expert on the subject and he acknowledges the counter argument so that they relate. Another thing I might underline that relates to ethical appeal is the word rebuttal, which is the same thing as counter argument. He's talking about an oppositional point of view. But he's showing us, I'm always giving credit to the author, and I'm talking about how he's showing us he's open-minded and inclusive. These are ways in which he builds likability, right? This is what's going to make readers go, oh, that's really, that's nice that he's open-minded. I think I'm more likely to listen to him and be persuaded by him. So then I critique him and say, even though he's doing well with this idea, this strategy, he does not specifically cite the source of the new studies. He just is general. He doesn't tell us where the studies came from. So then I say that he's actually undermining his credibility, right? There's language there about he's not developing his credibility, he's harming it, he's undermining it. And then I show let's see, further ethical appeal language when I talk about how we really want concrete knowledge. I pose some questions, and then I talk about he has an ethically founded argument. That's just my language. And I come to this conclusion that he is rather convincing. For the most part, even though it's not perfect, I'm acknowledging it's not a perfect argument. I'm saying it is pretty convincing overall. This is my conclusion sentence, right? And so I just want to show you really quickly here that this paragraph is not all about rhetoric 100%. It's getting to this. I want to point out that there is a lot of, and I'll highlight in yellow here, a lot of language, or what color did I use before? Oh, pink. We use pink to highlight the heart of the matter. And the heart of the matter shows up in a lot of places like here in the topic sentence. I'm not just saying Rifkin develops his ethical appeal fairly well. That's a little oversimplified. I'm not really, trying to transition. I'm not showing that I know even what the subject matter is and how it relates to ethical appeal. And then all of this is 100% rhetoric. And then if you look, I do say to support the claim, he's making a claim that pigs deserve humane treatment, I bring in the heart of the matter. And then more of the heart of the matter is involved in the kind of quote I'm citing. And then I talk about the cruel treatment of animals and what people are doing. I talk about, this is more rhetoric, it's successful. See, all of that's rhetoric. But then I bring back inhumane treatment issues. And then I talk about animals are self-aware. That's another claim. I get to that's a topic-related statement. Let's see what else. All of this is rhetoric-based, and then I get to the end, and I make sure, even if I'm going into my rhetorical analysis, I'm bringing in the heart of the matter, especially by the conclusion, right? I want to bring, like, why does this matter? What's the point of analyzing an appeal if I can't tie it back to what he's trying to persuade us about? And so as you can see here, this is, to me, what successful writing does is, yes, I'm asking you to rhetorically analyze and evaluate to what extent the ethical appeal is strong. It's fairly strong, is kind of what everything here seems to support. But I'm not leaving it to just rhetorical. I'm not throwing in a bunch of rhetorical terms, all parts that I underline here, and leaving it to the reader to feel like, wow, this is a really dry rhetorical analysis paper. So that's what I wanted to point out. And then if you look at the layout, this is where, and I'm not going to mark anything, but let's see, maybe I'll add comments here. That'll help you. I'll insert a new comment, okay? Not this one, excuse me. I'm going to break down the structure of this paragraph for you, okay? Transition, this is my transitional phrase and topic sentence, right? Where I evaluate one of the appeals. That should be in your topic sentences too for your body paragraphs. This is where I extend it. This is just an extension of that. Extends explanation of the appeal and what my focus will be, okay, coming up. So I'm going to focus on these ideas. And then I go straight into a claim. This is why you, as you read your article, it's really important to think about a claim. Summarizes a claim from the author in my own words, right? You should be putting the claims always in your own words. Do not cite the claim in double quotation marks because you want to save that for the evidence. This is me giving credit to the author, right? I am setting up my quotes. Gives credit to the author and frames the quotation by identifying. Notice that I'm identifying the evidence type. You know how you guys have a list of evidence types in your handout? That's what I would use if you can, or if you have already annotated it, that's great. There's a list of, and this is how you frame your quotations. You look at maybe some of the interesting active verbs on page 5 of the handout, but I like this list. These are types of evidence. Okay, so facts, oh, you know, the author presents a fact, or the author provides a historical example. That's kind of how you want to set up your quotes. And so you can see here, I have my quote. I used editorial brackets because I edited it. It wasn't the exact wording that the author used. And then what I did was I included summary. As soon as I'm done with quoting, it's kind of like, well, now what? Summarizes what the quote is about. Your goal as a student is to demonstrate you understand what you're quoting. Like, what did you comprehend from that? And then I have my analysis. So this is where I start thinking about, okay, the relationship between this appeal and the intended audience, right? This is my rhetorical analysis and evaluation of the ethical appeal being used in that quote, how the quote is set up. And I connect this all back to audience. I'm considering the audience. Readers who are not familiar with inhumane treatment issues may then trust Rifkin as a credible source because they're like, oh, we're being informed, right? So you can say readers, you know, you're a reader too, so you can say we are not familiar, or I, you know, you don't have to use I, you can just say the audience might not be familiar with, or the reader or readership. There's a lot of ways you can sort of identify you intend to focus on audience here. I wanted to quickly go into, here's another place where I set up my quote. So I'm just going to quickly say, I think to create a well-developed paragraph, I don't know how many quotes you need, but I like to aim for just 2. So I feel like I'm demonstrating a variety of analyses. Evidence number 2 is set up here. And notice evidence in range, like it's a different kind of evidence. You know, you don't want to just quote a bunch of numbers over and over again in your paper because your analysis is going to get backed into a corner and you're not going to be saying anything new every single time. You don't want to sound like you're repeating yourself. So this is different from evidence number one so that I have a different kind of analysis to develop, right? That's important that I make these kinds of rhetorical choices on my own in my own writing. What's interesting about this setup is that I actually put the claim after the evidence. So I don't think that what I'm pointing out here is that there's no set structure for how you set up the paragraph. Because up here, this was where I said, oh, to support this claim, this is what Rifkin does. So I put the claim first and then the evidence. You might choose to do that too. Or you might have the evidence and then you say that this supports this claim. So I just wanted to point out like that it doesn't have, there's no set structure here, but there are important things you do want to cover. It just might look different from paragraph to paragraph. I don't want it to sound cookie cutter for you in your writing. I don't want you to get frustrated that you feel like you're boxed in writing in a certain way. It's not like that at all. And then this is where I do my critique. This is my criticism. Criticism. I cannot spell. Okay, criticism. And evaluation and analysis, all of it kind of together. Considering audience, always bring it back to the audience. Always bring it back to the audience and how this might make or break his credibility. And then you always want to end on a satisfying note. What did you think overall? Was the appeal successful or not? After all this analysis, you don't want to leave us abruptly just like hanging, but you need some kind of strong summarizing, reinforcing conclusive statements that also gets to the heart of the matter. Okay, so that's what I wanted to show you. Thanks for listening. It'll vary for every single person's paper. Again, don't try to follow any specific format, but just notice that this is every sentence, every word is there for a reason. I notice how controlled my writing is and how I use a variety of transitional words and expressions, right? So that helps the flow. Let me know if you have any questions about this, and don't try to do the same thing that I did. It's just here for your FYI. I want to make sure that everyone is writing different kinds of theses and different kinds of paragraphs. You might even decide you have so much you want to say about ethical appeal that you break this up into 2 paragraphs, right? And that's okay. That's okay to do. You might have a couple paragraphs on ethical appeal in your 3 to 5 page assignment. Thanks for watching and listening. Contact me if you have any questions.